The following is brought to you by the Starfleet Podcast Network, SPN, The Spin. We were doing this thing where we would watch the episodes of Star Trek and kind of narrate over those. And one of the guys said, what if we got some kind of like cease and desist from CBS? And this is before the whole streaming thing, Paramount Plus. And I said, well, that would be great. That would be awesome because that means that we're on the radar.
Red alert.
I'm Big J with Beyond Trek Podcast, and I'm here with Scott Nakada. Now, did I get the last name pronounced right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, great. Perfect. Wanted to make sure I had that. Now, looking at your background in Star Trek, I see that you did some work with the fan film Star Trek Renegades, and which was great fan film, by the way. So, want to talk a little bit about that, and especially some of the other things and other projects that you're involved in. So if we could, I'd like to start there and have you tell us a little more about your work with that film, how you got it, what you did with it, and if there's anything else Trek that you've got going forward.
Well, how much time do we have again? Like an hour?
Yep. Like an hour. Okay. So yeah. Use up as much of that as you'd like.
All right. So it is a kind of a long story.
All right.
And I actually have to get to the point where we talk about Star Trek Renegades. I actually have to talk about what came before Renegades. And that was a little project called Star Trek of Gods and Men. I'm sure that you're probably familiar with it.
Sure am. Yes. Another good one.
Okay. So way back when, and I think it was 2002 or 2003, it was way back when, and my memory can't go back that far perfectly.
I know how you feel. I'm the same way.
So the producers for Star Trek of Gods and Men, Sky Conway, and writers Ethan Kalk and Jack Trevino, wanted to do this little homage to the stars, right? Homage to Star Trek. And it was interesting. So I'm not sure how they got in touch with each other. I think Peter Christian probably just answered an email or a posting on a chat forum back then. I wouldn't be surprised if Peter chimes in somewhere in the comments.
Well, we hope so.
He reached out to be a part of this fan film project, and another friend of mine responded saying that he knew a guy that could make props. And at the time, I had just started my business. That was Escape Sci-Fi Originals. It's now Nakada Studios because I do so much more than just props now. Keith Marshall was the gentleman that responded, and he reached out to me, and one friend leads to another, and so I wound up making props for Gods and Men. And through that production, that experience, which was an entirely different, crazy story unto itself, in a lot of respects and regards, we wound up getting to the point where we started talking about Star Trek Renegades. Several years later, Jack Trevino had an idea for this Dirty Dozen in space. And if I recall right, they lined up a couple different actors, notably, originally, Walter Koenig's son was slated to be the captain of the Icarus. And originally we wanted it to be just this derelict freighter. So I did some artwork, and Sky looked into some crowdfunding and other funding options. And eventually we wound up coming to this point where we had a web page up showing initial designs of the other ship, and we had reached out to a couple of the other artists that were on Of Gods and Men. So we, in essence, brought everyone that we could to Star Trek Renegades. But with Renegades, we really wanted to make sure that this was a very, very different kind of Star Trek. What we really wanted to do was take this and show it to the powers that be at CBS and Paramount Studios and say, okay, guys, this is what we would like to propose for a new series. Right. And we had a lot of positive feedback in many ways. And we really just made the look of this a little bit more advanced than what we had seen in like Deep Space Nine, for example, or Voyager. You know, just take it and just move it up a notch so we weren't moving outside the realm of what we knew as Star Trek. And unfortunately, the whole thing got kiboshed for a couple of years because Walter's son unfortunately committed suicide. And that was heartbreaking and depressing on so many levels. Personally, professionally, I mean, we all remember what that was like for Walter back then, and what a lot of the fan reaction was. You know, watching his son growing up on TV, and watching Walter plead on television for his son's safe return and everything, and the unfortunate result. Yeah, that was very difficult for all of us.
It was, absolutely.
But a few years later, I don't remember what it was specifically, but I remember I got a phone call from Sky and he said, all right, well, we're going to go ahead and do this thing. And, I started doing some design work, for it, started doing, various incarnations of the original ship design, started, myself, several of the artists, Roland Barron, started working on the initial model for the Icarus. Chris Dawson came back as a visual effects supervisor, Matt Boardman. We had a lot of people coming back from Of Gods and Men. And then Tobias Richter came on as well to be one of the visual effects supervisors. Justin Durbin was amazing in the original shoots. And not just the shoots. His music permeated the final film, as you know, just beautifully. And he contributed a lot of behind the scenes artwork, like graphical elements, like animated computer screens that we saw on the Icarus. And a lot of that. He really is a true consummate artist. I have nothing but the greatest respect for the guy. But you know, with this Star Trek, what we wanted to do was, we knew that we had a storyline that was completely different from anything else that had been thought of before. You know, in this modern age of entertainment, you know, we see television shows and series that are very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very much based in espionage. Right.
Right.
And that was something that we had touched on briefly in Star Trek, but we really never had seen. So when we went ahead and wrote this, or when Jack, Ethan, and Sky wrote the script, they really wanted to take that aspect, that darker area of of how the Federation got their information, and executed for the safety of Federation citizens the things that normal Starfleet couldn't do. It was truly the Dirty Dozen in space. And it became very dark in places, but I think that's just the way our society has moved into, the direction our society and a lot of our entertainment has moved into. Some of you might even say that we're very dystopian now.
Absolutely. I think so. And you're right. I think we forget some of the parts of Starfleet and the Federation that we know are there. At least we should, but there's really not a light that is put on it. And it's that right there. There are things that have to happen behind the scenes, kind of like Section 31. It's the same thing that they have to do, where we know that there's this kind of underground agency or group that has to do things that are, what's the word I'm looking for, like off the books, off the record. And if anything happens, of course, these are jobs or positions where they're, oh geez, I'm having a hard time when you don't recognize someone who did something. It's I know it's going to come Covert? To me later. Not covert.
Shadow op?
It's right there. Disavow. Disavow the actions that have happened. So I think that is a great plot point, a great story, is to spend some time on what is that happens and is done behind the scenes, kind of some of the more darker stuff that really is a part of Star Trek. We don't see a whole lot, but it is there. And having a story based on that, I think really at the time was different, probably a little controversial too. Did you get the feeling that was the case?
When we released, it was hugely controversial. The most vocal fan reaction was the most critical when we released. We knew that we had something special when we were working on this. It's one of those things where you just feel the magic in the air. That's the best way I can describe it. And it was funny because we saw an ad on our teaser trailer airing on CNN at one point, and the network cleaned that up on their subsequent web re-release. And then on the day of the release, if this is any kind of badge of honor, I don't know that it really is, but we were the second most bit-torrented and pirated movie on the internet next to the Avengers that day.
I think that's good. I would take that as a badge of honor. Of course you would. Yeah, I don't know what take of that. I think that's pretty good. There was a point where with us, with our podcast, we were doing this thing where we would watch the episodes of Star Trek and kind of narrate over those. And one of the guys said, what if we got some kind of like cease and desist from CBS? And this is before the whole streaming thing, Paramount Plus. And I said, well, that would be great. That would be awesome, because that means that we're on the radar and someone knows about us. So it's almost like getting something like that is still a plus. It kind of sounds odd, but I would say that, yeah, we were the second most bit-torrented movie behind the Avengers. I take it. that's a plus.
So yeah, we really wanted to do something different, and a lot of people, a lot of professionals loved what we were putting forward. Our cameraman Tristan Bernard, he's the one that pointed that out to the group, that we were the second most directed film of the day. But the fan reaction that we got from Renegades, we thought we had something special on our hands, and we thought that it was hugely successful from our aspect, from storytelling point of view, because we had some fantastic talent on board. Brian Winia, he was a creature designer. Yoshi Vu was another one of our artists. We had just an amazing team of artists for art department, and these are all mainly volunteers. We spent, I think it was 16 days filming this thing. And we filmed it at location at Laurel Canyon Stages, and we were turning over the sets within hours. And we had some substantial challenges that we had to overcome during this. From lighting to the producer, to Sky showing up and being like, no, I don't like this set, redress it, make it look more cavernous.
What?
Okay.
You can't just do.
Well,
that.
We did.
Yeah. Sure, you did, but I'm sure it was not easy.
So we had this idea that we would be inside this grown structure, right? And we had these wall segments that were just flats that needed to be organized like the inside of a whalebone, right? Or like a whale's. You see Jonah's whale and everything else, or you imagine walking through a set of dinosaur skeletons with the spine above your head, and your ribs on your left and right. That was our initial idea, and this was for the caves in the shot, or in all the Sci-Fi caves. And Sky came in, looked at this set and said, "It doesn't work. Fix it." So we wound up going to our G&E guys and borrowing all of their black foil and filling in all the different spaces and everything else, and spray painting some gray over it. Well, as I'm working, our director, Tim Russ, we have like all kinds of motion and activity going on, and people are frantic. It's an all hands on deck situation because we're supposed to roll in like 30 minutes, and we're still in the middle of like redoing the set because, Mr. Conway just said no. Right. And I remember Tim's walking around the set, really, really excited. Really excited. He's got his got a cell phone out. He's moving it around, right? And even though in real life you could see where all the black foil had been added quickly and everything else, and just stuff crammed into corners and spray paint, quick, just adding a little bit of highlight to those pieces of crumpled foil. It blended very well on camera. And Tim smacks me hard on the elbow. I'm like, what did I do? Right?
Yeah, I'm sure that was unexpected.
And he's excited is what it is. He's just thrilled. He's like, look at this. It matches perfectly on camera. Oh, awesome. Great.
So I still have a job. That's good.
Got my director's okay and thumbs up on that. So, we finished that up, and that became the the T-junction set where the firefight was in that in the Sci-Fi caves.
Okay.
But I mean, despite all this amazing effort and everything else, when the film opened, and sorry about getting distracted and sidetracked.
Well, that's fine.
And it was released to the internet. The kind of fan reaction that we got was completely unexpected. From our perspective, we had done something that was amazing, something that was truly a labor of love. And our visual effects people worked tirelessly. You can't even tell where the actual visual effects shots are. And just to give you, you and your listeners, or our audience, an idea, all the scenes where we are on the Archer Bridge is basically a visual effects shot. We had real elements, but the entire back wall was manually rotoscoped for the entire sequence.
That's a lot of work.
That is a lot of work. Matt Boardman and a couple of our other artists were really just sitting there pulling out their hair on a lot of that. And that took an enormous amount of time to do, especially when you don't have a real budget to work on. I mean, just between Matt and Chris, I think they probably put in $1 million worth of their own time into it. I can't imagine what Yoshi and some of the other artists that went on to do more amazing things in their careers. Like Yoshi went on to work on Star Wars, so he's done stuff for Kenobi, The Mandalorian, Star Wars Episode 9. He built the Death Star. Our guys went on to do amazing things. Matt Boardman went on to go be on Top Gun Maverick, $1 billion film, right? He was on that for 2 years. Chris Dawson, oh my gosh, check out his IMDb. Hi, Chris. But yeah, these guys went on to do amazing things. So we had really great talent on board, but despite all that, the fans really hated what they saw. They were very, very, very vocal in what we had presented. And for the longest time, every single one of us were like, oh, well, that sucked.
There's a saying that we've got that no one hates Star Trek more than a Star Trek fan. And it sounds like, and it is, we see that a lot. And it sounds like this is one of those cases which, to me, it feels like, and I'm sure you can agree, that you spend all of this time and effort on something that you feel is going to be a good story, good plot, good movie, very entertaining. Then you put it out to that audience and that happens. So I'm sure that had to be pretty frustrating.
It wasn't really frustrating. We were just really shocked. But there was a good thing that came out of this too. It was a life lesson that basically said, hey, the most vocal people that you're going to hear from at first are your critics.
The people the first ones you'll hear from are the ones that are just anxious to criticize, to tell you what you should have done, tell you what you should have done and how you could have done it better. So you're right. I don't know why. I don't know why the critics are the first ones to jump out, but they are. And you know that there are a lot of people that think it's positive and take it as a good thing, but for whatever reason, you don't hear from them as much. But the critics, oh yeah, they can't wait to tell you what you did incorrectly or what you should have done.
One of the things that was most interesting about that is, I see this every day when I work for clients or if I do a commission for somebody. people that are truly happy and will never say anything, right? And the one person that is unhappy about something probably represents about 100 people that do like something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we came to realize, this was kind of odd, so we released, I think it was in, what was it, May or something? But after we released, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Okay, so I'm going to go do the Star Trek convention, right? I'm going to set up my table. I'm going to start selling my stuff, putting my wares out. And this is like, what is that, 2012? And I'm going to get berated about this thing. And the reaction I received was just the opposite. There was a lot of fans saying how much they loved the show, loved what we did, right? And that was fantastic. I mean, there were a lot of professionals, a lot of people involved with this, and there were a lot of amazing, talented people that were Trek alumni, both in front of and behind the camera, involved in a lot of different ways. And ultimately, I guess Sky talked to people, as far as I know, and the decision was made to really not pursue it at the studio level. Okay. We did this amazing thing, and as far as being a fan film goes, we're really excited about it. I really can't really say too much else about that aspect of it. But I mean, when we were on the Icarus Bridge, right? We filmed at Laurel Canyon stages, and those stages were built for the television series Firefly.
Oh, yes.
Yes. In fact, you can see them for the first time with fresh paint in their second episode. It was a derelict colony ship, I believe it was, or something like that. It had just been looted by, what are they called? Ravagers?
Reavers.
Reavers.
Reapers.
No, it's Reavers.
Okay. Well, I'm going to get highly criticized for not remembering that. I should know that, but yeah, I think it was Reavers.
So the bridge set is actually the engineering section in that, and this was actually the second time we had used Laurel Canyon stages, because the first time we used it was back in Of Gods and Men, when it was the space station office that Ethan was in. And that was of course the bridge in the Firefly episode. So we didn't wind up really using much of that set at all, except for when this is another one of those we have no money issues. The question became asked: where are we going to show this scene of this woman being dragged off into the dark? Right? Because we don't have any more money. All of our budget is spent. And I said, well, we got all these sections back over here. So right in the back of that Starship bridge that they showed on Firefly, and that was the space station's office in Star Trek of Gods and Men, there's a small T-junction, right? And I said to the guys, okay, this is our location where she gets dragged off into the darkness. So we just make sure that this doorway back here is dark, perfectly easily doable. And then she just comes running around the corner, trips, drops to the ground. Sci-Fi grabs her, pulls her back into the darkness. And it worked great. I mean, it was the simplest solution. And our opening shots when we're on the mining planet, which was that graphic was beautifully done by Chris Dawson for the establishing shot. That opening set was literally built on their green screen using all the movable walls and everything else that we could find in the studio. Like literally at that point, we had spent virtually all the rest of our budget. We didn't have anything to build or any budget to work with. And so just at the back of Laurel Canyon stages, they had all kinds of walls and movable things. And so I had the stage or the film crew and our art department literally pull up all the pallets, which were doubling as decorating for the interior corridors, and move them on top of the green screen, set them up with the walls that were flyable from the other side of the stages, and we just built the set in front on top of the green. Quick, easy setup to do, and I mean,
and it worked.
It does, yeah, exactly. It sold.
So here's what I'd like to hear a little more about. You mentioned Nakada Studios. So you've got your own self-interest, self-business. Let's hear a little bit about that. I want to hear about the stuff that you do, that you're doing outside of Star Trek, and how you got there with that. And if you kind of find yourself going back to that, or that you've completely, I guess, not to say you've gotten free of Star Trek, but has your experience there with Renegades put you into a thing where this is my own deal, my own studio, my own work, and Star Trek propelled me there?
So here we go into another story.
Okay. I love the stories. Lay it on me.
Well, yeah, I mean, life is a chain, right? So you can't get to one link without the other. But so following up on Renegades, Star Trek Renegades, we of course did the Kickstarter and the follow up, Star Trek Renegades: The Requiem, right? And it was to be Prime Timeline Chekhov's swan song, if you will. I mean, Walter Koenig at that point in time, and I just saw him earlier, a few months ago, and he really wanted to give Chekhov a rest. That's the best way I can describe it. And in the middle of filming, new rules came down from Paramount Studios and CBS about fan film rules, the fan film, right? Yeah. Well, we were on our third day of filming when that happened.
Oh.
Cannot make this up. So filming stops that day.
Yeah.
Right? I get the message, hold on, don't do anything. New rules came down. We're frozen. Right? So Frank Zanka, our producer, says that he called over to CBS Legal and got the verbal okay to go forward with it. But Sky was very afraid of going forward with that at that point because he didn't want to be sued into the ground for making a fan film. Right?
Right.
And that was really the last time we would see Nichelle in that particular role. And so the whole thing became Renegades: The Requiem, right? Mm-hmm. Strip out everything Star Trek because of legal reasons. So we had to come up with an entirely new look. And I remember turning to Kiera Finlay, who was a truck driver at that time. Now she's now an autonomous vehicle technician or employee. She collects data and does all kinds of stuff for the industry now, but she was a truck driver at the time. And so she had literally picked up a load to go from Tennessee to California to be part of filming, right? And I had to turn to her at that exact moment and go, okay, I need a new starship. Drop everything you're doing. And yeah, just start making something. And it needs to be like this. It needs to be more pokey stabby is our joke. Because everything in Renegades is pokey stabby. You like look at all the antennas and everything coming off Icarus, and all the design work winds up being pokey stabby. And the joke is that if it's not Siphon, it can't kill you, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So everything's pokey stabby in Renegades. So we had to have a starship that was more pokey stabby and more Icarus shaped because we couldn't do Star Trek anymore, right? And so she started doing that work on the stages, and she took off our Renegades logos. Then I instructed her to strip out the words that say Star Trek on it. The top line, just flip the bottom bar up on top. And that became our new logo. I mean, we did it like that fast on the stage. As we're trying to figure out how to not be Star Trek anymore, which is really difficult to do when you're geared up to do a Star Trek fan film.
And it was a sequel. It was supposed to be a sequel to, the first one. Was how do you do a non-Star Trek sequel to a Star Trek film?
Exactly. And when you're in the middle of doing it.
Yes, we've already started.
Yeah. So Rob Dobbs, Dragon Drene, Alzacaria, they were all there. Well, a lot of the other Star Trek fans, David Chang and just a lot of other really, really great guys were there. Oh gosh, I am sorry, Lieutenant J, but I forgot.
You can't forget Lieutenant J.
Lieutenant. Oh God, she's gonna kill me too. It's not like I don't talk to her on Facebook or anything else. God,
Tracy Coco.
Tracy. Yeah. Sorry, Tracy. God, I'm my mind blank. I'm so sorry. But I remember Tracy came out and she was there for a day, and it was another hot day on set, and she was in the now purple morn costume, right?
Right.
They asked her, or wardrobe asked, "Hey, are you?" Or was it makeup? I'm sorry, it was makeup. Are you afraid of are you okay with wearing a prosthetic? Right. And so they put this giant freaking Morn bag on her head. I remember coming around the corner and seeing her and the person that she was with, I think it was a manager or something, lift off this head. Right. And she's just covered in sweat.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, are you okay? Do you need anything? Because, I mean, damn, she just looks at me and, sweat dripping down her face. No, I'm good. So we go through all that and the filming wraps up, and it gets released to the public in bits and pieces. A lot of people still ask what happened with all that. And the truth is that a lot of the budget really wasn't all there to really execute it, I think, better. Time crunches, budgetary crunches, all that. And that's just the production reality. Plus, being torpedoed in the proverbial middle of it, added to difficulties. I think that deflated a lot of the people that were working on it. By the time post-production wrap came about, I was no longer involved with it.
Is that so?
Yeah. I don't know if it was a budgetary thing or if it was no decision. It's what it is.
Yeah.
I got involved in a couple bits and pieces, but nowhere near with the extent of the involvement I was on Renegades, the first one. The first one I was post-production art director on, and still creating design work. Like Mr. Rick Sternbach and I worked on the USS Archer for provided me 3 different images because he was in the middle of moving his house when that whole thing came up. And I just kind of took bits and pieces of what he had created and moved them into something that looked more interesting. And then after that, I created the rest of the isometric views so that a 3D model could be made. The 3D model was executed by Yoshi Vu and Tobias Richter. But getting back to Renegades, so we wound up after release of the second film. We wound up creating yet a third film, which I had even less involvement on. I think I was asked to provide a couple of the heavy pistols. And they went out and released their own thing. And I guess it was shown to Amazon and one other studio, but I haven't heard anything else about it. I mean, with the writer's strike and the actor's strike, I'm not really surprised. That leads me to your question.
We'll get there. We got there. It's the links in the chain, which I really like that saying that you had there. I think we're going to have to credit you with that if it's said again. Of famous quotes, that's from Scott Nakada.
Oh, thank you. Please, yes, do use it as much as you wish to. So as time went on, and all this stuff happened with Star Trek and everything else, and I was involved with the Roddenberry store from 2007 up to closing. A lot of fans came to me for stuff, and a lot more fans decided to be more creative on their own. You know, a lot of stuff happened, stuff meaning, what's a good way of describing it? Less interest in what you might do. Less interest in what you've got to offer because somebody doing something else newer, bigger, better came to be, or there are better studio offerings because people want to support the franchise. I would love to support the franchise, pick up a license to do what I do best or be involved with the Star Trek productions. I mean, that would be amazing. It's not that I don't know people. I'm not there. Yeah. Not that couldn't be remedied or anything, but at one point, Sky and I were talking, and I was expressing my woes.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "Well, why don't you just take your business and rebrand as, I don't know, Nakada Studios?" And
perfect name. I'm sure is what you're thinking.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, well, I don't know about the name. What really went through my head was, it's got a certain ring, but damn, that's egocentric.
Well, but when you look at it this way, you wouldn't be the first. There are many, many, many businesses and outfits out there that are the name of the person. So you shouldn't feel that that's egotistical or anything like that. I'm sure that probably the knee-jerk reaction is that, but
that is exactly what I thought when the idea came across.
Yeah.
And like you had just said, that was the thing, right? A lot of people, Stan Winston, of course not ILM, but
yeah.
There are a lot of other companies, a lot of individuals that wind up branding their company with their name because, what else do you do?
Yeah. Why make up something when you could just make it easy on yourself and just make it based off your name? And plus, that puts your name in people's heads, I think,
Exactly.
instead of just like coming up with something generic.
Exactly. It wound up giving me the ability to really explore and offer more of what I do for people everywhere. So, I mean, since my experiences with Renegades, what I've been doing is just working on smaller projects, not fan films per se. I mean, people came to me for more fan film stuff after Renegades. Sam Calkins asked me to help them with several different prop pieces, things like that for his projects. And then having a little fun here and there, helping out people on different other fan films. Like I worked on Star Trek Continues for a little bit, providing costume pieces and wardrobe stuffs. I created their phasers for it. It was based on my Mark II concept prop. And then Farragut Forward did a couple things for John. Nothing huge or anything else, just a couple small things. So I've been staying in contact with the fans, being a fan. And I still post on my Facebook page, different fan stuffs that I enjoy and like and everything. Because that's what we do. We're fans. I mean, come on.
It is. Absolutely. Well, that's the thing. And that's how you and I came to meet, is that you start building this network, meeting more fans, because of course that's something that we all have in common. And you start meeting people, sharing this thing that you like and enjoy. And then before you know it, you start seeing this interconnection, I think, because as I look through the posts, for example, for yourself and for others, it seems like people are kind of, I think I could say that we're maybe not a tight knit group. We're certainly exclusive to others, but there's more of a community out there, I think, than we know.
The community for Star Trek is really, really huge. That's the best way I can describe it. People that I know on productions, they're all amazing, great people and everything else. And they're fans too. They just simply are. I mean, of course, I'm a fan of like other people's works that, I've been on it since, TOS, but that's also what inspired me to continue doing what I do. So Nakada Studios is more or less the legacy in a lot of ways of fandom, of being inspired by those people that did that before. And that's, taken me into different directions where on certain other productions like Alternatives, we've explored the world, or universes. And that's a project with Michael Korolenko. And there have been a couple others, but there's the one that I'm most passionate right now, and I'm looking to get fundraised and everything else. So, shock.
We appreciate the hustle.
Shock, scoop. So, if you've been paying attention on my social media, on Facebook and on X, or I mean Twitter, yeah,
it's still Twitter to me.
Still Twitter. The X, formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah, it's a Z now, right? Not a tweet.
That's
X,
right.
Z. Jeez.
Z now. God. So Elon Musk, if you want to back this. So I'm working on a project that I've created with several of the other members from Renegades on board, doing modeling work and some development stuffs. And another gentleman by the name of John Lovett, who's a script writer with over 20 years experience writing professionally. We've developed this project called Starship Echelon. And it is something that I think that most Star Trek fans will be able to get into. It has a similar kind of Kennedyism or Roddenberryism to what Star Trek had, right? That positive message of hope. And, you know, I've shown it to a couple people. I can't say who.
Okay.
For obvious reasons. They've got bigger names. You would recognize them.
Okay.
If I did mention them.
Write it on a Post-it note when we're done. Just hold it up to the camera and real slow and then put it back down. No, that probably wouldn't work either, but.
Yeah, here we go. But, oh, wait, hang on here. Post-production insert.
I love it.
These individuals are they have bigger names. They're household in a lot of ways. But Starship Echelon, it approaches the universe and people from, I think, what I feel is a more relatable position to where we are now. I mean, Star Trek is great science fiction. Star Wars is great science fiction. The Ghost in the Shell, the advancements in AI that we talk about, that we see now, right? These things are huge advances in medical technology that, I mean, where do you begin? I saw today that that scientists trapped light in a metamaterial.
Oh, really?
And they were able to amplify the magnetism in light 10 times.
Now we're playing around with science and things that, like, I think that's amazing, but also to me, some of this seems a little scary.
Quantum computing, we all hear about this thing. We all talk about this thing. We all talk about what makes us us, right? Mm-hmm. But quantum computing does something that is more interesting than what we know classically, right? Classical computer, you know, takes time to complete an operation, right? To come up with the outcomes. A quantum computer comes out with the outcome by running all permutations more or less at the same time. Right. And that's how it can happen that much faster. That's why they have an entirely different unit of measure for the power that a quantum computer has versus a classical computer. And a lot of these scientists that are working on these computers are saying that, or these quantum systems and artificial intelligence systems are saying that, no, these things are actually like real. You can actually see, like an MRI on a person's brain, how the interactions with the user are exciting or creating emotion in the AI. And you can see the spikes, peaks, and valleys when you're watching it work. And that to me is mind boggling that that's even a possibility. And so with Starship Echelon, we're going to the universe. We get that how-to road. How do we get from where we are now to a near future, 100 years from now, where humanity is on the brink, right? No nuclear war, no post-apocalyptic societies. But humanity, it nonetheless, has changed the world so much that we are facing something else that forces humanity off the planet. That's it
Right.
in a nutshell. But our people are relatable. Like, how do you deal with hot button topics like drug addiction? Right. What drives a person to be flawed that way? What drives a person to be disliked by others? Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to go a little bit heavy. And I know that you've experienced this yourself, right? So, like racism.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. How do we deal with that? How do we deal with that in the future? How do we deal with it when it could be something completely different, like, for a Ghost in the Shell reference, like that character in that is dead. Well, we have a character in ours that is dead, right? How do we treat that person, right? In the manner of speaking, we're talking about very much the same things. Why is being different, looking different, not being, what someone calls the same as them? Why is that acceptable to someone else? What makes it not acceptable? What can a person do to show that they're the same as anyone else? Right? So we tackle these hot button topics and issues in a relatable kind of way that really puts a dramatic impact and point on people and society, and it gives us a voice to speak to that from. And not to go too political anymore, and unfortunately it's going to go there, but a lot of the people that are Democrats, Republicans, or independent voters that read this and really love this. It has the ability to bring people together and have that conversation in ways that are profound if we can get this thing funded. And that's where we're having our stumbling block right now is just rounding up the money for it.
Well, it sounds like a very good project. And I know it's intriguing to me. I would love to see this. And I think you're right. That's probably one of the biggest hurdles and can be very frustrating when you've got this thing, you've got this idea, this concept that you want to do, that you're really passionate about, but then it comes to the big thing, come down to the money and being able to get the budget for that. So hopefully you'll be able to get that. I know I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that this is something that sounds like it's new, it's different, and it's exploring a different angle. Now, this is this, and if you said it and I missed it or misunderstood, is this a Star Trek related thing, or is this something different that you're doing that is its own world, its own science fiction?
It is its own piece of science fiction.
Okay.
I know that a lot of Star Trek productions call themselves Starship, enter and name here, right? Yep. But no, we're doing something completely different because, well, it can't be Star Trek. It just simply cannot be Star Trek with the direction that we're going with it. It's an action-packed kind of roller coaster ride that asks a lot of questions about who we are, where we're going, and everything else. It's got the potential to go 3 movies, 2 television series.
Oh.
And I'm thinking about really just starting to develop product and just release it on my website to help this thing go. My wife even suggests taking parts of the novelization that I've been working on and just leaking it here and there.
That could work.
I could work, yeah. But I mean, right now, the budget that we're trying to raise for this is a $50 million budget, and we're trying to, and we want to release it theatrically.
That would be big. That's a big goal.
It is a very big goal, and getting the right kind of talent and the right kind of interest and backing on it is, at least for me personally, and my team, has been challenging so far. But hopefully, with a little luck and a little bit more interest, we can make this happen for all the fans and all the people that are investing money into it. Can make a little bit. What I should clarify, we don't have any real investors right now.
Working on that. That's the next step.
That's exactly it. So, I mean, we have a lot of talent on board. Those people that work on the Gods and Men that went on to do, and Renegades that went on to do things like Top Gun Maverick, or some of the other Star Trek fan films and other big projects like Marvel projects and everything else. A lot of artists are on board for it. But we've run into that situation where we just don't have anything at this moment that we can move forward with without, that income. So, I don't even know how much of this is going to make it the podcast.
All of it. All of it. Yes. So that's the way I like to do it. Is I really don't do a lot of cutting and editing. I like things to be the way it happened. So it's
that link in the chain.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there are things out there that can be overproduced, if I could say, where everything is, I guess, tried to splice together perfectly so that it takes away some of that nuance. But no, it's if you were to fall backwards in your chair, that's going to make it in it. Hey, that happened. There you go. So be very careful. And
Sweet. Done.
So could you tell us where can our audience help with this project, to help support the project? You said you had a Kickstarter. So is there anything else you can tell to the audience that may help direct the eyes on that project and that interest?
I don't have a Kickstarter for Starship Echelon.
Okay.
The reason why I don't have a Kickstarter for it is because of the budgetary number required. Look, as you know, and as your viewers know, and as professionals that are watching this know, you only really get one shot at making a first impression, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Lord knows I've worn out my first impression lot. But the truth is, if I go put this out to Kickstarter, right? Then I have to make the movie for however much gets raised, right?
Right.
And based on my experiences on Renegades, I know that visual effects alone are going to be close to $5 to $10 million.
Oof. Man.
Right. Yeah. And that's inexpensive.
Oh, that's inexpensive.
That's inexpensive. you get a lot of these movies, like what Tom Cruise is in, and these visual effects budgets can balloon. I was talking to another gentleman that was on the Picard production, and he thinks that it could be made for $10 million. Okay, that's my visual effects budget now, because the professional said so, right?
Uh-huh.
The guy that does this day in and day out, and then so likewise, he thinks that would be a suitable number for a visual effects budget for this. And I know that working with an in-house team, yes, we can do that for that much. That's not a question in my mind. People that I know, if they're available, can bring it in for that much.
Okay.
But when we add on the 5% that the director needs, plus the pack-in points and all the other budgetary concerns with COVID mitigation, and now the writer's strike and the actor strike, the question is, where are those negotiations going to wind up looking like for the rest of the industry, and consequently the budget for this? So everyone's in a hurry up and hold their breath kind of mode right now.
Yeah. Hurry up and wait.
Exactly. So, 2025 is when we're going to wind up seeing a bunch more entertainment coming out of the industry.
I think you're right. I get it. I totally get it.
So, yeah, I mean, other than that, we have a splash page up on Nakada Studios. You can go to the section that's marked in development and go right to the link for Starship Echelon. Other people that want to be more involved, I don't know, maybe you're a professional and you're an agent, another producer. I mean, we have producers on board. But maybe you're an executive producer or someone in that position. They can reach out and speak to us or speak to me on Facebook, or email me at magic@Nakada Studios.
Magic@Nakada Studios. Okay.
Yeah. That would be a good place to email me at. I'm hoping that we can just make this whole thing happen, because, I mean, there's, aside from Star Wars and Star Trek, I mean, there's what seems like a deficit of good science fiction. And I just really want to be one of those people that can help fill that niche and inspire the next generation of artists, scientists, mathematicians, educators, and people to go out and do great things. I don't need to be the next Gene Roddenberry or George Lucas. I just gotta be me and bring along everyone else that wants to come along for the ride.
Yeah. You don't need to be somebody that you're not, basically.
Exactly.
Well, and that's best. That's what you can do. That's best you can do, is to be the person that you are and not try to emulate someone else. You're bringing people onto your vision, your project, and what you would like others to see as, this is my work. It's not a rehash of me being someone else. Yeah.
When we were developing this, we tried to be very, very straightforward and approach the development of this, of the story, from a very different and more relevant point of view. That's why a lot of our characters are more flawed. Gene Roddenberry wrote very, very structured, very much more evolved people. And I credit him with inspiring a lot of people to be better than what they could have been. Right. I mean, look at Nichelle Nichols, right? I mean, she was a true inspiration to me. Just doing what she did, and having Gene Roddenberry say, no, you got to stay on board, and Martin Luther King.
Mm-hmm.
It was really tragic when she left us, because I worked with her on a couple different things, and I was at her goodbye convention also.
Mm-hmm. That's nice.
Yeah. It that one was difficult. That was difficult watching her pass. Or not watching. I mean, I wasn't there, but I mean, like watching the news, seeing it.
Yeah, we get it. Yeah. Being present, and when it happened, it was kind of one of those, where were you when this happened moments.
Yeah, that it really was. So I don't even know where I was going with this.
It happens to me all the time. That's okay. I get into those rabbit holes and just start going in that little spiral. You know how it goes.
yeah. I know. Your viewers are watching this going, oh God, when's he going to stop?
Anyone who's watching us that knows us, that's followed Beyond Trek podcast over the years, we openly admit it. That's kind of one of our things. We will be on something, and I've done this. I would stop us and just say, and of course, like I told you, everything we record is pretty much there. And I would tell the guys, how did we get here? What are we talking about? And how did we end up at this point? Because you start making those tangents, and at some point someone has to realize, okay, wait a minute, how we went from talking about this to now here, and they have nothing to do with each other. So we went from point A to point M, and all of the stuff in between.
Yeah, exactly. There's, I have on my wall over here some of the ideas and loose ideas, loose concepts, and everything else that I have for Echelon. You want to see it?
Yes. Yeah. If you can, I'd love to see that.
All right,
Let's check it out.
Hang on.
Okay.
We're going to float now. So the rest of the world gets to see some of what I have.
Oh, I like that. I like that poster.
Yes. So I can I'll give you a shot of the of that a clean shot. Oh, hi, son. This is my son, Hikaru. You're being streamed to the world right now on a podcast, son.
Hello. That was a very fast getaway. Pivot on the heels, boom, gone.
And this is why they say you shouldn't work with animals or kids.
I've been photobombed by my kids also. That's just, hey, we're not in studios doing this. It's all natural. We'll do it live.
Right. This is my actual office. This is actually where I do all my computer work. Right. I mean,
what's funny is you go from, you're sitting there, you turn the camera, you come back, and your son's just standing there. It's like, whoa. That kind of made me jump for a second. It's a good thing this wasn't Assassin's Creed. You'd be gone.
So aside from Starship Echelon, we're working on a project called Fearwood also. And that's a smaller project. Right now we're in the development stage for creating a short. That also needs funding. That's probably something that is crowdfundable, just based on the budgetary numbers that we're looking for. So we're developing a couple different things at Nakada Studios, and there's other props and different patterns and things that I'm going to wind up re-releasing because, well, people ask me for these things, and as long as there's no other issues or entanglements or anything that I can think of that stops that from happening, which I don't think that there are for like clothing patterns and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're pants and shirts. I don't think that there should be any issues. I mean, well, the next thing I'm going to wind up doing probably is start exploring more stuffs on the Echelon side and just starting to filter out some design work and some prop items that I know I can create here to give viewers a sense of the world.
Right. And that is excellent. I like everything I'm hearing there. I really hope that these projects get to where you need them to be, because they sound exciting to me. And so hopefully that is something that you're able to get that backing and to make that goal. And I'm definitely going to follow your posts on Facebook. And that would be great if you start getting there, because I know I'm definitely pulling for you. If I had $10 million just sitting around, sure, love to help you, but I'd be excited if I found $10 in between a couch cushion right now. So, it is on our end. Well, Scott, I really, really appreciate you taking out the time in your day to come on here with me and talk about Star Trek of Gods and Men and Renegades, and talk about Starship Echelon and your other projects. So appreciate all of your time, hoping that all of these things take off for you. Anything that myself or Beyond Trek Podcast can do to help you out, I mean, we're always willing to help out our fellow fans with any of the things that they're doing. So Scott, again, thank you. Really appreciate it. And for those in our audience watching and listening, we'll be back again for more of these discussions with fans and creators. So enjoy and live long and prosper. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can support us at patreon.com/BeyondTrek.
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your ears. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.